Okay, we're gonna get through this thing.
Yeah, we are.
Hey, we're back.
We're back, baby.
We are back.
The dream team.
Yes. Amen, sister. Flavor of the day, chocolate churros. That is right. Please sponsor us, chocolate churros.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch, which is Kellogg.
It's incredible. We're already way off the rails. So, Jessie Coffield to my left. Emerson Lotzia to her right.
General Mills. We would like General Mills to sponsor us. General Mills makes.
Someone clip us off and tag General Mills.
Chocolate churros.
Big cereal people here. So this is a Monday edition of The Sweat. You guys know the drill, and if you don't, we bring it to you live, 11 a.m. Eastern Time to noon Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. We do a lot of stuff on Sundays as well. In this show, we're going to talk a lot of DFS on the baseball side of things, also some sports betting, but we are going to start in the NFL. We're going to overreact. We're going to freak out right now, and I believe we have some people here to help us do
We're going to do that NFL hangover thing that people like. Good morning to our Perky NFL panel, DraftKings contributors.
Perky.
Reed Fowler, Pierce Dietrich, and Jeff Ulrich. It is time to overreact to those week one storylines.
Perky.
So, what happened to the Packers? A lackluster performance from Green Bay, and I do mean lackluster, after an offseason full of turmoil.
Disgusting.
We had a rejuvenated Jameis Winston out there who gave the best post-game interview of the year already.
That was fantastic.
Just has no idea what's going on. Jameis took advantage. He had 5 touchdown passes for the Saints. So, like, is this a week one blip, do we think, for the Pack, Jeff? Or is this what their season's going to look like?
I mean, it's not the first time that Matt LaFleur's crew here has not shown up on the road. They got just steamrolled by Tampa last year. They lost to Indy. I think this is a reflection of the fact that the Packers defense, it's still not good. They still marching Kevin King out there, and there's going to be weeks where they just get steamrolled, and Aaron Rodgers and Devonta Adams can't save them, and this is one of those weeks. I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I'm not worried about Devonta. I'm not worried about the Packers offense at all. They'll show up. What happened here was their defense couldn't stop anything to start the game. The Packers got a 3-and-out a couple times, and the game was over before it even began. And I think, again, the Packers, if they can improve or add someone at the trade deadline on defense, I think they're going to have trouble when the playoff times hits again. So it's a little bit of, they got exposed. Every team has their Achilles heel. But right now, the Packers on defense, man, it's same old story as what we saw last year against Tampa.
Reed, what do we think? Week one blip, or is this like real trouble for the Pack?
I would be a little bit worried, like Jeff mentioned, right? I wouldn't be worried for the offense from a DFS and fantasy standpoint, because if the defense is bad, we know the offense can be good. That's what the Saints have been doing, kind of in a circumvented way. Like in the middle of the season, the Saints are a bad defense, or historically have been, and so these guys would be able to put up numbers. But talking about Green Bay, you talk about Rodgers, only 4.8 yards per attempt. He had like a 36.8 QBR rating. That's bad. When you complete only one or convert only 1 out of 10 third downs, that's going to hurt, especially when Jameis Winston has an unbelievable 5 touchdowns on 148 yards passing. So anything that they did, Sean Payton game plans the heck out of this game. Green Bay did not. And let's not forget, too, Jeff, that Green Bay also got absolutely demolished against San Francisco in the playoffs. That run defense is not great. Alvin Kamara didn't have a good game. He had a decent game. We know Alvin Kamara could have absolutely destroyed that team, but we saw Tony Jones Jr. get put into this. So I think it was just a good game plan by New Orleans, not necessarily Green Bay being absolutely like the sirens going off.
All right, Pierce, do you feel like the sirens should be going off right now?
I'm not going to overreact to this team. Aaron Rodgers didn't participate in the preseason. He didn't participate in the offseason workouts. There was bound to be rust. If I'm going to overreact to anything, it's the photos of Aaron Rodgers. People are going to think that you're washed up. If you haven't washed up, the guy needs a haircut, maybe find a razor. The look is definitely not helping with
hypocritical from a guy who used to come on here looking like
Jeff
Spicoli every day, Pierce. We've seen your old...
Just because we got a tie on, Jeff, or Pierce.
Well,
look at this guy.
Pierce,
looking good.
It's too personal. What are you doing attacking his appearance? And he's an engaged man, or is he married yet?
Who?
Aaron Rodgers, dude.
Oh, he's engaged. He's not married.
Isn't he married to the girl from Hunger Games?
They're not married yet.
Well, anywho, he's experiencing and he's living life to the fullest right now, Pierce.
He looks like a pirate, and that's probably the most PC thing I can say on here.
I'm with Pierce.
Well,
hardy hard the Bucks if he's looking.
Trust me, when you come from Hawaii, Pierce, after spending like 2 months in Hawaii, that's what happens to you. Trust me.
Yeah, he was on vacation with Miles Teller and his wife. Yeah.
Anywho, I wish the Saints would just stay in Jacksonville and become that team, and the other team just is canceled. Let's go to another Florida team. Tua and the Dolphins escaping from New England here, guys, with a 1-point win after Damian Harris gifted Miami a game-sealing fumble. But 'twas another former Bama star stealing headlines as Mac Jones impressed in his Patriots debut. Jones finished 29 of 39, 281 yards, 1 touchdown. How many interceptions?
None.
Love it.
No
Setting a
interceptions.
Pats record for passing yards in a player's first start, despite the loss. What reasons for optimism do you have for New England, Reed?
It's amazing. It's amazing how Patriots fans you'll grasp at anything to be like, let's get back to the TB12 years.
Yeah.
And look, I get it, right? Because last year was a stark difference. It was a stark difference in what the Patriots fan had. I think when you're Bill Belichick in this offense, I think they did a really good job at easing him in. If you look at the first handful of series, like they called one pass play and Mac Jones almost threw it backwards on a running back screen. When you have Damian Harris going for 100 yards, when you have a solid run game, you're going to have a decent, chance at getting Mac Jones started very, very early. And I think it was a great game plan. And I think when you have a successful running game like Damian Harris, like James White, who is still viable in all fantasy and DFS formats, I think it's safe to say that Mac Jones progressively can get better throughout the season. I wouldn't be saying this guy is QB1. Let's anoint him the predecessor, but it's a good start.
Pierce, what do you think here, dude? Mac Jones seemed pretty much exactly as expected as an in-game manager role.
I think he looked a little bit better than that. The Patriots will be fine. They just got to stop fumbling the ball. They're not the best team in the AFC. They're not the second best team in the AFC. They've got to develop throughout the season. But as long as they qualify for the playoffs and give themselves a chance, they'll be fine. If you're expecting them to win 13 games, it's not happening. Just make the playoffs, improve every single week, and then see what you can do from there.
Jeff, what do you think here, man? Is this a playoff team?
Their defense held Tua to under 60% completion rate, 200 yards, interception, 1 touchdown. Their defense is there. Damian Harris is there. The only reason, and Reed alluded to this, the only reason they lost this game, obviously the fumble. They should have won the game. I mean, they were in position. Mac Jones marched them down the field. All they did was hold on to the ball. One little mistake. But if they had come out more aggressive with Mac Jones at the start, they probably win the game easily anyways. They were the better team there. I do think the Patriots going to definitely make a run at the playoffs. I think this is a very solid team, and I think they're going to get better as they loosen the grip on Mac Jones a little bit. So, unfortunate set of circumstances for the Pats week 1. Lost the game they should have won, but it's a solid team, absolutely.
Jeff, they win that game yesterday of Cam Newton's quarterback?
No, probably not.
Okay.
Yeah, gonna go with no.
That was a great follow-up.
He left because he would just be a distraction, though. He's just.
Let's talk about Drew Bledsoe. Would they
his-
have won that game if Drew Bledsoe? We're just going to talk about
Let's
former
just go
New
through
England
every
Patriots.
quarterback and analyze what
Hey,
the
why don't
Patriots did.
all 3 of you just chill out because Jesse has a question.
Okay, I do have a question. Pierce, Sam Darnold got his revenge on his former team. Carolina Panthers beat the Jets on opening weekend. Now listen to what Darnold did, all right? Threw for 279 yards and a TD, also ran for another TD. Now his passing yards prop was set for like 248 and a half, so he smashed that. So Pierce, is a change of scenery all Darnold needed to turn his career around? Was it just that he was the quarterback for the Jets before?
He also lost a fumble on the goal line, so let's not forget that. He still is kind of like the old Darnold, not completely fixed yet. And it's not really a change of scenery. It's a change of cast of characters. McCaffrey almost had 200 yards on the ground. DJ Moore had a solid game. And Robbie Anderson did what Robbie Anderson does, which is catch a big touchdown pass. It's a step forward, but we're not quite there yet.
Dude, it's just because Adam Gase is gone. He's away from Adam Gase.
All right, Jeff, do you think that this is like a new and improved Sam Darnold and he just needed to be on a better team?
No, I think this is the same Sam Darnold in a little bit better offensive system with Christian McCaffrey. 38% of his completions went to Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey might lead the league in receptions this year. I'm not saying that as a joke. Sam Darnold knows where his bread and butter is at. He's got a guy who gets open easily over the middle. It's easy, short throws for him. That's what he's good at. Robbie Anderson also got like 5 yards open on the deep touchdown against the Jets secondary. And again, let's remember, this is the Jets. It's one of the worst secondaries in the league. If you can't light up the Jets a little bit, you're in trouble. So I think you're going to see Sam Darnold, when the going gets tough, those deep passes probably won't be there for him. And look, he played fine. I'm not suggesting he played poorly or trying to bash him. It's just I think that you still have a bit of a limited quarterback, and it's going to shine through against tougher matchups. But if you own Christian McCaffrey right now, you'll absolutely love what you saw there. 9 for 9, 9 targets, 9 completions. Darnold's going to just keep targeting him over and over because that's where his bread and butter's at.
We're 2 yards shy of that rushing bonus, 11 yards shy of the receiving bonus. So
and you
close.
guys just think, Reed, do you agree with the guys? Like, they're pretty down on Sam Darnold right now. Like, I was kind of like, wow, this guy's new and improved. And they're just like, no.
Yeah, if you get Julian on the horn, he'll definitely sing Darnold's good graces. And I know why Pierce is. Pierce is very close to this. And so you got to come in with it. He's like me with the Raiders. It's like, wait, just hold on, right? Like, Darnold is someone that still was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. And yes, everyone who gets away from Adam Gase usually does better, and especially quarterbacks, right? We see Ryan Tannehill and now Sam Darnold put one good game in the column. But one thing I want to mention, guys, is on his deep passes, he was decent, and that's why you have Robbie Anderson. On Darnold's intermediate passes, he was not great. I don't think he completed a pass on his intermediate passes at like 5 to 10. That's not going to be good. And the offensive line too. He goes the way his offensive line protects him. I think they gave up 11 pressures, the Carolina line did. And the Jets only got 1 sack. They get New Orleans next week. If Darnold can do this against New Orleans and that aggressive defense, then we can start talking about it. But this is Sam Darnold's first game away from Gase. Let him put it together a few to say that he is now a decent quarterback.
Let's talk about a decent running back, shall we? How about that situation in San Francisco, guys? Wow. It's been a little murky for a few years, but seemed like Raheem Mostert would get the bulk of carries at least to start the season. But after he leaves the game with an injury, rookie Elijah Mitchell kind of slides on in, takes over. All he did was rush for 104 yards and a touchdown, 19 carries, 41-33 win over Detroit. Yeah, that one got close in the end. So is the 49ers running game back to being a massive, thick question mark each week, Jeff?
Yes and no. Yes, because look, there's still going to be 3 running backs plus active each week, but no, because I think Eli Mitchell is the real deal here. This is a 4.32 runner. Who does he project like? He projects like Raheem Mostert, who's now banged up again, and maybe just banged up in perpetuity here. Everybody high on Trey Sermon. Look, to succeed in Kyle Shanahan's system, you need to be a good north-south runner, hit your holes with speed. That is exactly what Eli Mitchell does. This is why they went and grabbed this guy as like a late round lotto ticket. He's very productive in college. Is he the perfect running back? No. Is he going to be like Christian McCaffrey light? No. But in Kyle Shanahan's system, he might be the best fit. And if Kyle Shanahan thinks he's the best fit, he's going to lead them in carries. So I think there's a lot of potential here for this guy. It's the guy you want to go out and take a risk on in your waiver wire, season long, whatever. I'm very bullish on this. I think this guy may be the leader if Mostert keeps staying out.
Yeah, Trey Sermon, by the way, a healthy scratch yesterday, but Reed, that plug-and-play running game just kept on rolling without Mostert.
Yeah, I want to be like Lee Corso and be like, not so fast, Jeff, not so fast. We've done this 1,000 times with the San Francisco backfield. Jermichael Hasty, Jerick McKinnon. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And I think that is, from a real football perspective, fantastic for the 49ers, that if one guy goes down, like we've seen with Mostert, that another guy can come right back in the same game and get the same amount of production. I love Trey Sermon as a buy low candidate right now. Like everyone's going to be freaking out about Trey Sermon. And it's only for season long. Go out and try and grab Trey Sermon, especially if you're in Dynasty, because this guy is the real deal. They brought him in for a reason. And just because he didn't beat out these guys in training camp doesn't mean that he's not going to be part of this offense, especially, and we've seen it, these guys go down. I'd be a little worried about a guy like Elijah Moore, just because, it's the hierarchy, Elijah Mitchell, just because this hierarchy, there is none, right? Everyone's on this level playing field. So on showdown slates, especially if the 49ers on showdown slates, RB2s and RB3s are definitely viable as captains, just because we know that this is what the 49ers do.
Yeah, what do you think here, Pierce? How unpredictable, too, is this backfield?
I don't think it's unpredictable. I don't think I think Trey Sermon owners should be worried. And I think this emphasizes the point that the daily fantasy community and the fantasy community are often detached from reality. Kyle Shanahan came out after the game and said, hey, Trey Sermon, he's not even one of our top 3 running backs, you lunatics. We're all talking about Sermon all off season, and he was never part of the plan whatsoever. Eli Mitchell is the guy moving forward. If injuries happen, sure, play Sermon. But until then, it's Eli Mitchell.
Thank you, Pierce. Thank you for coming in and speaking.
I'm not
the
saying
truth
go
here.
out and play Sermon. He's
Whoa.
not even part of the active roster. I'm saying for future, of course. But yeah, if there's an NA by Sermon's name, don't play him.
All right, Reed, finally, just like what's one team or player that you want to overreact to after week one? Someone that you're, maybe it's a player, maybe it's a team that you're just feeling like, all right, I'm freaking out.
Yeah, man.
Oh, I'm sad about Ryan Fitzpatrick. You guys all know that how much I love Ryan Fitzpatrick, and this Washington football team absolutely took a huge hit. And literally, so did Ryan Fitzpatrick. He might miss the entire season. We'll see. But a guy that I'm positive on is Jamar Chase. Everyone was saying this guy is not someone you should pay attention to. I talked about him last week. You saw what he did. I think now he's in the conversation of being part of that. Still, he's still on the third on the pecking order. But I think he's getting closer to the guys like Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins because we saw what he can do.
All right, Pierce, who are you going with for this one?
How about Kyle Pitts? Where was he yesterday?
Yeah.
And I don't really want to bury him so much. I mean, he had an okay game. If he gets in the end zone, it's not a big deal. But he didn't get in the end zone, and it didn't look like the Falcons are getting in the end zone anytime soon. They're terrible. I should have known better. Matt Ryan and the starters didn't play in the preseason. This offensive line has been terrible for years. Their running game doesn't really exist. That makes them one-dimensional. It was a bad play. I hope that he gets better, but that was a bad look yesterday.
Yep, benching him.
Yeah,
Done.
Jeff, what do we think?
Yeah, but first of all, Reed did make a really good call on Jamar Chase. I think the garbage time will be there for Pitts and Ridley eventually, but that's a scary situation. But I'm going positive as well. Break out the parades, people. There's another Philly quarterback in town, Jalen Hurts. Look, do you know how you play the Eagles? When everybody thinks their quarterback stinks and their whole fan base wants to trade them, that's when you go all in, because that's all I've heard all offseason. We got to get rid of Jalen Hurts. We need to bring in Deshaun Watson. Jalen Hurts isn't the answer. Oh, look what Jalen Hurts did week one. This guy was absolutely masterful. The division is absolutely opened up for the Eagles to get right in there by the end of the season. No Ryan Fitzpatrick in Washington. The Giants are the Giants. Dallas, sure, they'll probably be there because they got Dak. But Jalen Hurts looked absolutely masterful week one. I know it's Atlanta. I know. But this guy made all the throws, rolling out of the pocket. He's going to be able to move the ball with his legs, too. I think it's a big season coming for Jalen Hurts.
This is a veiled Nick Foles
It's
argument,
absolutely
isn't
a veiled Nick Foles segment that I just threw out there. Thank you for noticing.
it?
All right, guys. We're going to talk some DFS baseball stuff coming up. Thanks, all three of you, for your help and your positivity, Pierce. We will return to the NFL, though, after we talk baseball.
Sorry, Pierce.
Thanks, man.
Welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jessie Coffield. He's Emerson Lotzia. And our MLB panel is a one-man panel. DraftKings contributor Matt Meiselman.
So it's not a panel, right? Isn't
Well,
panel plural? So
it's
this would
still
just
a
be
panel.
a one
Panel.
No, I think panel implies more than one person. So this would just be one-man band. Matt Meiselman.
Okay, he's also not a band, and no one cares. But he's here for MLB Price Check, which people do care about. So we're getting your favorite DFS plays at each salary range. Matt, let's start with a pitcher who's over 8K that you're just like, gotta have in my lineup.
Well, I may not be a panel, but you guys are. There's two of you. Which
That's
is
true.
Thank you. Number one in your heart.
I don't think there's a must-have at the high end of the pricing range for pitching tonight. I think Eduardo Rodriguez at 8,800 is probably the best choice. I don't know if he gets as much popularity as he should. He's coming off a pretty bad start against the Tampa Bay Rays, but there's no one that I'm that excited to pay up for, and he's a little bit cheaper than guys like Sandy Alcantara and Adam Wainwright. Yu Darvish, Clayton Kershaw, who's probably going to be on some kind of pitch restriction in his first start back off the IL. So I think Erod is kind of the least bad choice here. It's not a great pitching slate. I think everyone is kind of mediocre, and maybe it's better to just spend down at pitching today.
All right, Matty, how about, speaking of spending down at pitching, that's a great segue. Give me a pitcher under 8K.
So there's two I like. The one who points per dollar is probably the best choice is Logan Gilbert with a home matchup against the Red Sox, who I think are a well above average offense, but Gilbert is actually a really good strikeout pitcher, it seems, in his rookie year, and he's only 6,700, so I think that's just a misprice on him. But from more of a game theory perspective, you have Paolo Espino at 6,100 at home against the Marlins, and I do think the Marlins end up getting really popular tonight because they're getting this big park upgrade going into Washington. Espino's not a great pitcher, but if everyone's playing the Marlins, you play Espino at 6,100 and he actually does well against them, it's a huge leg up on the field. So he probably is my preferred option for GPPs because of that variable.
All right, Matt, you said you didn't want to pay up for a pitcher. You were just picking like your least bad option. But what about hitters? Is there a guy who's over 5K that's enticing to you? Juan Soto is the most expensive guy on here at 6,100.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough matchup for him against Alcantara, and I don't think he's a bad play at all, and he's probably one of the guys that would be worth considering. But I think Tampa Bay, the entire lineup as a whole against Alek Manoah, who should be, I think, among the top 2 or 3 guys in terms of pitching popularity. He may even be more popular than Erod, so you're getting some leverage there. But Manoah has a pretty severe platoon split where lefties have hit him hard, and he hasn't been able to strike. Well, he's been able to strike them out more, but he's walking a lot more lefties. He's giving up more power. So the point production from left-handed hitters against him has been there. And Brandon Lowe is sitting there at 5K. I don't think that he is a common second base choice just because you have Jazz Chisholm, who's cheaper. And then there's a bunch of other second basemen who are much cheaper. So Lowe with a platoon advantage against Manoah, who should be one of the chalk pitchers, I think that makes a lot of sense. And the Rays as a whole, I think, go way under-owned.
Best value bat on this slate, in your eyes, is who?
So the Marlins are the value team. I think their outfielders in particular are just still much cheaper than they should be. Basically, the situation is that the Marlins are a bad offense, but they're not as bad as people generally think they are. Part of the problem is that they play their home games in Marlins Park, which is a very tough place to hit home runs. So the park kind of suppresses their offense. And guys like Jesus Sanchez, Lewis Brinson, even Brian De La Cruz has had a couple home runs lately. Like, these guys are below average MLB hitters most likely, but they do have some pop, and they're all 2K range. Sanchez at 3K flat. I think all those guys are value plays. So it's really, it may turn into the chalk stack because there's so much value there, but that's really the value team I'm looking at.
All right, Matt, slate approved pick time. So what is your favorite play overall on today's slate?
Yeah, it's this Rays stack that I mentioned. I think because of Manoah's likely ownership, which I think gets above 25%, could even get into the 30s. If it gets into the 40s, that would be even better, but I think somewhere around the 30s. But I still, even if you weren't considering that, I think the Rays do have a lot of upside in Toronto against a pitcher who is volatile. He's had some great games this year, but he's also had some pretty bad ones. The Rays have a lot of good hitters in their lineup, so I'm focusing on Lowe and Meadows if you need a one-off because of the platoon advantage. But there's obviously a ton of power from Nelson Cruz and Randy Arozarena, Mike Zunino if he's in the lineup. So the Rays overall, that's my favorite pick of the day.
All right, dude, hang out because coming up, Kenny Ducey reportedly will
Allegedly.
be joining us. Yeah, no one really knows. It depends on how strong the internet connection is with the hospital next door.
Yeah.
So you guys will do the sportsbook look at the MLB slate. We're going to look at tonight's Monday Night Football Showdown, little Ravens and Raiders, and we have the Raiders guru Reed T. Fowler returning right after this.
Welcome back to the sweat. Do you want to take this? Okay. We are back talking with our NFL panel, DraftKings contributors Reed Fowler, Pierce Dietrich, and Jeff Ulrich. Fellas, NFL showdown time. So we're looking at DFS prices. Best bets also for the Monday Night Showdown between the Ravens and the Raiders, which is pretty exciting. So let's start with who your captain play is for tonight. Reed, we're going to start with you. Most expensive guy in the captain spot, Lamar Jackson. He's going to cost you $18,600, more than $2,000 more than the next guy. Are you paying all the way up for him?
I'm not going to talk you off of Lamar Jackson, even though he's the most expensive by a long shot on this slate. Against the Raiders, he sets up perfectly, right? I mean, rushing everything, right? The Raiders struggled quite mightily last year on both sides of the ball. So I do get that, but I'm going to go with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr has been, a guy that is just sort of middle of the pack, right? But or that's the sentiment that we feel like he's middle of the pack. But he's someone too that if you take a look at his numbers, they've been pretty good since 2016. He's got an 87.5 passer grade, which is the 9th highest in the NFL. And if you take a look at this defense, they lost Marcus Peters, and Derek Carr as a home underdog has positive splits. With a guy like Bryan Edwards coming through, we'll talk about him in a little bit, I'm sure. Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs potentially being out of this game. I think they're going to have to pass quite a bit, over under set at 50. So I like Derek Carr.
All right, Pierce, who are you putting your captain spot for 1.5 times the salary for 1.5 times the points?
I'm not going to overthink it. It's Lamar Jackson. He has to basically do everything. They don't have they have a running back, I guess. But for the most part, it's going to be him for the entire game. Las Vegas's defense, one of the worst last season. Maybe they've improved, but I don't think they've improved enough to shut down Lamar Jackson. The thing that is the real tell here is that the Ravens are still 4-point favorites. This line has not budged. They've lost their entire offense, and yet they're still implied to score 27 points. Who's going to score those points? Lamar Jackson.
All right, Jeff, what do we think? Who's your captain?
Yeah, it's so hard to pick against Lamar Jackson here. Again, it's not like we're going up. It's not like they're facing the Saints or like a really good defense or something. It's the Raiders. So even if we like the Raiders to score points, Baltimore is still going to score points on the other side. So I think that you have to have a very small player pool in terms of captain spots. I'm not confident enough to say a guy like Henry Ruggs or Sammy Watkins is going to get there from a value perspective. It could happen, absolutely. But I kind of have to say that if you're going at the captain spot, it's Lamar Jackson or it's Darren Waller for me. I would throw Derek Carr in there. I think those are the three guys you should really be considering for captain. I'm going to go Waller because, again, I think he's just going to see a ton of targets. I think with Josh Jacobs likely being out or at least questionable right now, that's going to lead to a few more targets. And the Ravens also didn't really guard the tight end position well last year. So I love Darren Waller. That's where I would go personally. But I think all three of the guys we mentioned here with Waller, Carr, and Jackson, that should be your captain player pool. And you shouldn't drift too far from that.
So, Pierce, when you're looking for some value in this showdown, like where do you go? Especially a guy like you who wants to captain the most expensive player.
Foster Moreau is going to be a very popular value play tonight. I don't know how much Jacobs actually might hurt a little bit. Having the force more people in the box might open up some plays down the field. Either way, it could be more passing now with Jacobs not playing. We know that the Raiders love Moreau. We know that Gruden loves Moreau. They're planning on running double tight end packages a lot. And when you get to the red zone, he's probably going to be the most overlooked player. He's going to have some really good red zone opportunities, especially if Jacobs isn't playing as well. So I like the touchdown upside here for a very cheap player.
All right, Reed, need some value in this showdown.
Yeah, Moneybags Pierce has to go all the way down to Foster Moreau. Love it. What about Willie Snead, IV, revenge game? No, I don't think that happens. I'm going a little bit actually more expensive. I'm going Sammy Watkins. Jeff mentioned him earlier that he might not be a good value play for the captain spot, but what does Sammy Watkins do week one? It's kind of like the Deshaun Jackson, kind of like the Sammy Watkins, and I know he's not the Chiefs, so I know this is very different, but like I mentioned, Lamar Jackson is an underrated passer. This guy had a 9% touchdown rate last year, and you bring in Sammy Watkins specifically for that. Mark Andrews is going to be heavily targeted. We know that. He's going to be heavily rostered as well. I do like Sammy Watkins at that, like $7,800, I believe, in the flex. Someone who can now, it has good chemistry, and it was reported had good chemistry over the offseason, over preseason, with a guy like Lamar Jackson.
Jeffrey, what about you, dude?
I'm going to go just a little bit more expensive there, and I'm going to go up to Bryan Edwards. This is a player I've been really high on since he was drafted. Obviously, he had the injury plague rookie year, was basically just a write-off. But the Raiders are so confident in this guy, they basically were sitting him out in preseason. So he has won the number 2 job. I don't think Henry Ruggs is a number 1 wide receiver, and if the Ravens are going to put their number 1 cornerbacks on him, that's going to open up the field for Edwards. Again, if you're going to captain Derek Carr, I think Edwards is a perfect stack with him. And the thing about him is he's a little bit more expensive. Like, he's actually more expensive than Henry Ruggs. So I don't think anyone is going to play Bryan Edwards tonight, which even makes him a better tournament target, in my opinion. He's more expensive. He's more, you could go to Hunter Renfrow, or you could go to Pierce's guy, the Island of Dr. Moreau. But I think Bryan Edwards has the biggest upside there by far of that group that I just mentioned.
All right, the Ravens are 4-point road favorites here. They've suffered a ton of injuries, though, in the preseason. So does this number just, like, make you a little bit nervous, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, look, Pierce and I were on the show yesterday, and we're just probably going to repeat ourselves here, but I don't want anything to do with the Ravens in this spot. They've still got a little bit more of the public money on them as well, but you look at Derek Carr and the Raiders, and I like the fact that Josh Jacobs may not play in this game because it's going to make them pass more. This is where you want to attack the Ravens right now. It's down the middle with tight ends. It's on the corners with no Pargus Peters out. And look, can Lamar Jackson carry this offense and get the win for the Ravens? Yes. But is he going to put up like so many points that they're going to win by 2 touchdowns? I guess the Raiders could implode, but week 1 at home, this is a big ask, even for Lamar Jackson against a bad defense. So I think the Raiders have the offensive capabilities to keep up, and I love the +4 on Vegas today.
All right. How do you feel about this, Reed? Do you feel nervous? You want to stay away from this number? You don't think that they're going to be able to cover against your Raiders?
Yeah, so Sammy Watkins was $5,200. I was looking at his captain's price. I just wanted to make that note. But
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm nervous for the Ravens because in terms of PFF, the Raiders have a better offense overall grade than the Ravens do. And when you take a look at how lines move, Pierce alluded to it, we saw what happened when an offensive lineman goes out, right? We saw that Thursday night, and that kind of line can move, good or bad, right, for Dallas. Running backs, especially good running backs, too, it doesn't move at all. Cornerbacks, obviously, defensive guys, obviously, but the lines don't really move when running backs go down, and especially a guy like Lamar Jackson. So I'm not too worried about the movement, which way or the other. It's about how are they going to get this ball moving? I do think that there are some props that we'll talk about on the Ravens side that I'm more confident in. But the big thing, too, the question mark is this home field advantage for the Raiders. We haven't seen any fans in, and this is the first time we're going to see it. Let's see how that plays out. But I'd be scared if I'm on the Ravens side, especially if you got that number before all those injuries happen.
Pierce, Ravens are 4-point road favorites. How do we feel about it? You nervous?
Yeah, I would be nervous if I was supporting the Ravens, but I'm not. I like the Raiders a lot in this spot. As Jeff mentioned, the place where the Ravens struggle, it's not completely, but it's the passing game. That's their weakness. And then they've lost a cornerback. And what's a big strength of the Raiders? It's the passing game. And probably more so with Jacobs being out. Waller is an elite tight end. We could see Ruggs take a step forward. Bryan Edwards was being compared to Terrell Owens and Devontae Adams in the preseason. That might be a little bit of a stretch, but it tells us what they expect from this receiving core. And then also I like Foster Moreau. And their offensive line has improved. I think the Raiders can score points and outpace the Ravens. Like Reed mentioned, can Lamar Jackson completely carry this team? I doubt it.
All right, guys, let's look at DOS total, which DK Sportsbook 50.5. Think these two teams can get there, Reed?
I do. If you take a look at what the Ravens, like I mentioned, have to do, I think, to stay into this game, they're going to have to pass. And against a defense that finished, I believe, third to last in the NFL in overall defensive grade in 2020, they haven't made a ton of additions. KJ Wright comes in, they bring back Carl Joseph, Jonathan Abram is healthy. You got Ngakoue on the defensive line, your boy Emerson, former Jacksonville Jaguar, but like they're going to have to score, and I think this is going to be a high-paced game. So yeah, I like the over.
Key trend here, Pierce, under 6-1 in the Ravens' last 7 road games.
Well, I'm going to go with the over, though. If you look at the Raiders last year, 16 games, 13 times the over hit. And that makes sense. They have an explosive offense at times, and they have an implosive defense. And nothing's really changed. They still have offensive weapons, and their defense is still going to struggle in this game. So, and you also probably will get a little bit more of an aggressive, explosive Ravens offense with them lacking a running back. So I love the over.
Yeah, Jeff, lack of weapons at Jackson's disposal, though. How much does that limit the scoring ceiling in this game?
I don't think it limits it at all. I like the fact Josh Jacobs probably going to be out too, just more passing, quicker pace. And I see your understat, Emerson, and I raise you this stat. In the Raiders' last 9 games as home underdogs, the over is 8-0-1 hitting. Pierce already threw out their record last year against the over. Yeah, this one, there's a couple teams you just take the over right now and you sit back, and one of them is Tennessee, and we saw what happened. That one smashed. The other is the Raiders. I think you have to go over at 50.5.
Yeah, the under 5-2 in Baltimore's last 7 Week 1 games.
Ooh. All right. Finally, Jeff, is there a player prop that catches your eye in this matchup? Something you got your eye on?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked about Bryan Edwards in the preseason. I talked about him. Look, we're going to just get to Bryan Edwards. Over 37.5 receiving yards. Again, this guy's been talked up, but I from the start, since he was drafted, I think he's the real deal. I think Derek Carr absolutely going to get him the ball tonight. I love this total. It's way too low.
Reed, you want to take over on Derek Carr's passing yards, 262.5?
No, but another quarterback, Jesse, that I do want to take the over on the passing yards is Lamar Jackson, over 209.5 at minus 115. That is low, especially for what we're saying and all of the composite stats that we want to use that we think this is going over on the ancillary stuff that we're talking about. This correlates perfectly. I think this is grossly the number that is too low for a game that we think is going to go over 50 points. So yeah, minus 115, a guy that got, like I said, a ton of passing last year, was one of the best passers last year. It kind of goes unnoticed. I like it at minus 115.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson's passing yards have actually already moved up to 211.5. So
Same thing.
yeah, all right, same thing.
Same.
Pierce, what about you?
The number probably hasn't stopped growing yet either.
Yeah,
I imagine
definitely
it'll be
not.
higher. I'll go with another Raiders receiver. Ruggs over 2.5 receptions. A lot of people compare him to a young Tyreek Hill, and I would imagine that they'll do what they did with Hill, which is give him some gadget plays, a little screen pass or whatever. If he catches the screen pass, then he just needs to catch 2 passes in a game that we're all projecting to be a shootout. If he can't get 2 receptions on top of the one little dink pass, then maybe he really is a bust. But I like Ruggs over 2.5.
The Raiders have the best, this receiver is like this player. Like, we have the best, secondary team in the entire NFL. We're winning the Super Bowl this year.
Wait, what?
No, I'm just kidding. We're not.
Oh, okay.
We know.
Cool. Yep. Jags and Raiders AFC Championship game. Really, really good stuff. You heard it here first. All right, you guys are done. Great work today.
Oh, man.
We're going to bring in Kenny, so we'll have no problem filling the rest of the show. We're talking some best bets on the MLB slate coming up next. All right, welcome back, everybody. Last segment of this beautiful show we call The Sweat. Again, you can watch it Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, live up until noon on YouTube,
And on
Twitch,
Sundays, we're from
and on Twitter.
noon to kickoff.
And we're back.
We're back, baby!
We're back. Okay, so is our, finally, we have a panel, an MLB panel, not just one man. DraftKings contributors Matt Meiselman and Kenny Ducey. We did the DFS thing earlier. Matt, thank you for your help for that. Now we're going to cover the bases. So this is when you two share your favorite plays in the following categories on tonight's MLB main slate. We're on the DraftKings Sportsbook, the best sportsbook on planet Earth. First base, which favorite are you backing tonight? Kenny.
So I like pretty much every favorite on the board, but if I have to pick one that I really like, I think it's going to be the Toronto Blue Jays with Alek Manoah on the hill. This is a matchup of two really talented offenses, two offenses that are both in the top 3 in WRC plus over the last 2 weeks. Toronto, though, of course, stands alone, 167 WRC plus. Just an insane run for them, making so much quality contact. When you look at a guy like Alek Manoah, he has had a few bumps in the road, but for the most part, he's been absolutely outstanding for the Toronto Blue Jays. You look at the last time he faced the Rays, 10 strikeouts, over 7 scoreless innings. And while Colin McHugh has been a nice, story here when he had his career turned around by the Astros and he's pitched well for the Rays, I just have to take the better of the two pitchers here and the better of the two offenses. And it's a pretty good price to pay on one of the hottest teams in baseball. So I really like the Blue Jays here. Give them to me on the money line at -130.
Matty, we're covering the bases, so give me your favorite that you are backing tonight.
There's only one really that I actually like. It's the Boston Red Sox, a little bit contingent on if JD Martinez is healthy, but the general trend for the Red Sox is that they've been losing, but they're also getting healthier now. And I talked about Logan Gilbert on the DFS part of this. I do like him, but I also think Eduardo Rodriguez is a much better pitcher. And the Red Sox offense, if it's healthy, is actually one of the best lineups in the MLB. So make sure JD's playing, but even if he's not, the fact that Xander Bogaerts is back, Kyle Schwarber's back, and then the rest of the lineup is as good as it normally is, I think that there's just a kind of a thing going on where the Red Sox are a bit undervalued because of recent performance, but they also were missing a lot of key players for a lot of those games. So if they have their A squad lineup in there tonight, I think moneyline is a good value for them as just a small favorite.
All right, Matt, second base is the underdog that you're backing tonight. Who are you going with?
Yeah, this game's actually in the afternoon, but I really like the Twins against the Yankees, and this is going to be a theme for like the rest of the answers that I give. But Luis Gil for the Yankees has a 1.42 ERA in 4 starts. He also is walking over 6 batters per 9 innings, 6.6 actually. He has an xFIP of 5.19, which is about as large of a divide between ERA and underlying metrics that you'll ever find. And I think it's playing into the betting odds pretty significantly. So the thing with him is that in the minor leagues, his strikeout rates were really high. His walk rates were also really high. And that's been true in the majors too. He's just managed to not allow a home run yet in 4 starts, which is not really a sustainable thing for anyone. He's giving up a lot of fly balls, and somehow they're not leaving Yankee Stadium. So that probably will change at some point. And he's also had this incredible ability to not give up a big hit when guys are on base. So at some point, all of that's going to come crashing down for him. I think he may have a bright future ahead of him, but there's potential for him to just get crushed anytime he goes out because he's walking like a guy or two every inning he's on the mound. So I like the Twins, and especially if Aaron Judge isn't in the lineup. He left last night's game early. Brett Gardner came in for him in the middle innings. So that would definitely make the Twins a lot more appealing.
All right, Kenny, you said you like a lot of favorites, but which underdog are you going to be backing tonight?
Yeah, Aaron Judge will be in the lineup, so that's good news. Look, I'm looking at the lines here, right? And you're making me pick between really bad teams. Like, I'm not going to take the Diamondbacks here against Clayton Kershaw. I definitely don't want to take the Mariners for reasons that Matt laid out, and I don't want to take the Mets at -105 with Rich Hill on the mound. And other than that, there's pretty much pick'ems across the board. So I don't know if they count as an underdog, but I really like the Giants at home with Dominic Leone on the mound. He's been outstanding this year. The peripherals seem to back up what we've seen, which is that he's just been a really solid pitcher in short stints. And I think that he can lead off for this bullpen here, give him 2 solid innings, get this team rolling. When you look at the Padres, they haven't hit very well of late. They haven't really hit well at all over the last or since the All-Star break. And Yu Darvish, he did have a great outing against the Los Angeles Angels. I'm not sure if you want to be basing your bet off of that, before that, he was pretty bad, pretty crummy. When you look at the way that he's pitched, and really it all stems from mid-June when the league cracked down on spider tack and other foreign substances. Ever since then, the spin rates have tanked for Yu Darvish. He had a couple nice starts, and then they've sort of gone away. The strikeouts have come down, and he's allowing a lot of hard hit balls, a lot of home runs. So I think that this is a situation where the Giants roll here at home with the stronger of the two bullpens. And I do think that there is potential here for another blow-up for Yu Darvish. So I'm going to take the Giants. Again, I don't know if they're an underdog, but minus 110 at home kind of feels like an underdog.
Kenny, is that a Bergdorf's bag behind you?
It is. Yeah, I have to go return that today.
Okay, cool. Just
forgot that was there. My bad.
I like your style.
I also like your plants. It's a new addition to your backdrop.
Yeah, we have about 4 plants now, so I'm a proud dad.
Oh my God, yes,
Proud
your family is growing.
Plant dad.
Hopefully Harlow is enjoying them as well. Hopefully Harlow enjoys your favorite run line bet as we hit third base.
Yeah, my favorite run line bet is on the Boston Red Sox. I'm with Matt here. I'm going to smash this plus 135. I think that the Red Sox smash the Mariners here. Look, Logan Gilbert, it's okay to say that young players, top prospects, they're just going to need a little bit of time. Jared Kelenic isn't all there yet. And we can take things easy just because some guys burst right onto the scene like Fernando Tatis and just absolutely blow up the league doesn't mean that every top prospect's going to do that. Now, Logan Gilbert has a bright future, but this year has not been kind to Logan Gilbert. I don't think that he's going to just magically finish with consistent numbers. He's been very inconsistent. You've seen the good and you've seen the ugly from him. And while I don't think that he necessarily has the worst outing in the world, I mean, the Red Sox have been hitting the ball incredibly well over the last 2 weeks with backups, top 3 in barrel rate in that time. So I think that there is potential here for a big outing for the Red Sox offense, but I don't think that they necessarily need it because Eduardo Rodriguez is on the hill and he's pitched a lot better than his numbers would indicate. If you look at the hard hit rate, the strikeout rate's been up. And the Mariners offense has been absolutely dreadful, guys. Against lefties, 25th in WRC+. And we know that this team of late has just really struggled at the plate. They lost 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks. They really should have gotten swept. They almost lost on Friday night to Madison Bumgarner, another lefty. 4 of 6 now they've dropped. And this team is just in a downward spiral. And I think that once again, the Red Sox in a big game for them, for wild card purposes, just put the hurt on the Mariners here, just win by a lot of runs. I think Erod cruises through 7 and they get a big time win. I'm very comfortable taking the run line.
Matty, you're on the DraftKings Sportsbook. You're taking a gander. You're looking at so many numbers. Your favorite run line bet. Which one stands out to you?
So obviously I'm with Kenny on the run line for Boston, considering I already talked about them. So I'll move on to a different one. The Miami Marlins opened at plus 110 against the Nationals on the road. The game's now pick 'em, minus 110 on both sides. I think there may still be some value there, but the run line for the Marlins, minus 1.5 at plus 160, I think there's just a lot of upside for their offense getting this park upgrade. So the total for the game at 7.5 is a little low, I think, too, which is why the run line may be more appealing than the money line. You could have just more volatility in the scoring. The Marlins could win by a few runs. And I think they just have such a large advantage on the mound with Alcantara going against Paulo Espino that even though the Nationals have Juan Soto and the Marlins don't, they don't really have anyone that's that great of a hitter. But the pitching advantage is so significant that I think there is potential for them to win by a couple runs. So plus 160 seems like a value there to me on the run line.
All right, take us home with your favorite game total, Matt.
So this one's kind of on the fly because I wasn't sure that Aaron Judge was going to be playing today, and then Kenny filled us in that he is. So now I'm looking at the over in that game too. I mean, it's really an anti-Luis Hill thing. He probably is an all right pitcher, but the volatility will be there, and he's just nowhere close to as good as he's been so far. But John Gant's not good either, and the Yankees do have a reasonable lineup. It looks like Gary Sanchez is out today. Gleyber Torres is out, but he hasn't been that great this year anyway. That one's less big of a deal. And Kyle Higashioka is probably one of the better hitting backup catchers. But just the fact that Stanton and Judge and Gallo are all in there, and John Gant is a bad pitcher. I think the Twins offense is undervalued. So the game total at 10, which does kind of sound high, I think there could be a lot of home runs in this game. And I think this is one that has potential to go way over the total. The Yankees in any given game could just strike out a ton and not score. But this one seems like it's high variance, but also the total just seems too low to me.
Kenny, take us home. Hit us with your favorite game total.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the over in Dodgers Diamondbacks. And again, I don't really know if the games that I haven't spoke about, I'm not sure if there's a huge edge that I see in totals, but if you want to take one, I think that Zach Gallen here, he has, again, he's talented. He's probably the most talented, actually is the most talented starter on the Diamondback staff, but he's been prone to bad outings. The Dodgers have started to hit the ball a little bit better lately. And the Diamondbacks, they hit lefties pretty well. I've been targeting them against left-handed pitching. I targeted them all weekend. I'm gonna keep that going here. Clayton Kershaw is not a guy that's had a great season because he's been out for so many games with injury. I know that it's dangerous to expect the team to score a few runs off Clayton Kershaw, but I think that it could happen here. The Dodgers, the foot's off the gas pedal, so perhaps the foot's off the gas pedal for Clayton Kershaw as well. I think that both teams can put up some runs here and hit the over 8.
Kenny, before we let you go, how devastated were you by Novak Djokovic missing out on setting the record for Grand Slams?
Well, I'm not one of those crazy people that were screaming out in the middle of points for Novak Djokovic, but I was sad. It's sad to see someone who you think is very mentally sound and just can get through anything, and it just shows you that everyone's human. The moment was too big for him.
What about on the women's side, right? It was 18-year-old kid, first British woman to win the U.S. Open since the 60s. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And British tennis and Canadian tennis really haven't had a lot to cheer for of late. Andy Murray with the hip injury, and he's probably never going to get back to the top 50. And yeah, I mean, it was a great story. I was sad for Layla. I was rooting for her. What a run by both of them, though. And Raducanu, though, I mean, she qualified for the U.S. Open and then won it. That's what made it historic. You don't see people who qualify win more than a few matches. So the fact that she did that, came from outside the top 150, that's just incredible. Layla Fernandez, we knew that she was good. She's in the top 100. She won a tournament earlier this year. Both of them have pretty exciting futures, and I loved watching that match. It was incredible.
What was it like riding the Peloton in the VIP lounge? I heard that rumor floating around.
Yeah, well, I'm really I'm building up a good streak here on the Peloton, if you can see on my profile. So
great.
I haven't had a high five from you yet, so I'm a little upset.
Wow, Emerson, you're gonna have to get on that.
All right, that's it.
That's a show. That's a show, everybody. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to join Brendan Glasheen and Jeff Ulrich. They will be here at 5 p.m. They're going to talk Monday Night Football on the slate. So that'll be good. Tune in at 5 p.m. Eastern. We will be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern for another edition of The Sweat.
And then we got 3 Madden games coming up, too. Starting at high noon, Bears at the Titans, Bills at the Steelers at 2, and then Bengals at the Panthers at 4. That's it, because we don't do the Sims when there's real football being played, and there's real football being played tonight.
Monday Night Football!
Love ya. Peace.